Hey everyone, Hans here. Hope everyone's doing well. Today it's yet another beautiful morning. We have a bit of rain, with a nice frosty wind. What more can one ask for? And I do mean it though, because it toughens you up, this sort of weather. It really does. And that is a good thing. Anyways, what am I going to talk about today? There's actually quite a few topics that suddenly came to mind in the wake of let's say some research that I've been doing with people dear to me, and one of them is, I guess this is going to be about those females that have been denied their father's love. Granted, I suppose I can include the males who've been denied their father's love, but I find that the psychological response tends to be somewhat varied. So, where to begin? Oh yeah, by no means have I fully figured it out yet. Oh, I guess I startled a few forest spirits. Sorry guys. Not sure if anyone heard that, but what have you. So, yeah, just a bit delving a little bit into this topic, and who knows, I think it's good to look into it, because it will say, yeah, because we're gonna go from the point of females who've been denied their father's love, and I hope that if you know people like this, you may wanna bring this up to them when I'm gonna talk about. It's not, I'm not some sort of professor, I'm not some sort of therapist, I'm just a guy that tries to figure it out, and maybe that knowledge can be useful. That's totally up to you to decide. And if you go to people who might be in the situations, or in the situation that I've described, that their father wasn't there for them, this may be worth listening to for them. You never know. But by no means is it some sort of complete analysis. It's the first steps. Understanding that. Okay, let's go on. So, what is typical behavior from what I have seen, or the typical psychological response from what I have seen in females like this, is that they lose their personal value, their personal worth diminishes in their own eyes. This can be done on purpose, it can have been done as a side, or it could have been just a side effect from the negligence that they have faced. In and of itself, can you blame them for that? I don't think so. I don't think you can blame them really for anything so far. Nor is that my intention to blame, actually. But I'm also going to talk a bit about how people tend to respond to their behavior, if you will. So, they have a low self-esteem. And the thing with that is that it tends to go hand in hand then, that by believing they have low self-esteem, that their value as a being, as a wonderful being that should have been loving and warm and should have received that, at certainly just as much, is denied so. What follows there then is that they may not be that picky when it comes to partners. Hence that you see a lot of situations where you have females who hook up with males that are, well, they behave towards them just like their fathers did. In however which way that manifests itself. Sometimes even worse. They may be physically abused still, they may be psychologically abused, emotionally abused. The last two are a little bit different. and they may just believe that they deserve that treatment, or that at the very minimum that treatment is normal to receive because that is what they have grown up with. Of course, what follows from there is just a train wreck of, just a catalyst. It's just a catalyst for more disaster, technically, because such relations do not last. These females, if the inevitable happens where their relationship ends, and hopefully that means with them still being alive, but because there are these extreme cases we know of, right, where these females do not necessarily meet with, well, they do not necessarily survive such encounters, let's say, because they never valued themselves enough to make sure that they were always safe. Maybe even some of them sought it out. There are those catalytic events, however, where there is the breakup, the dangerous man that she was with vanishes out of her life, or maybe even starts stalking or what have you, and a new guy shows up, and he is going to be the next abuser. And on and on and on, and eventually it goes. Plus then this comes the new part, the promiscuity that takes place. So the sleeping around, for females at least, it just creates a mess. Because physically a woman should be able to bond through, what shall we call it politely? Yeah, by making love. That's a good one. It's, how one shall say, the animal of woman bonds with the first man or male that she lays with. The quality of the ones she does it with doesn't necessarily matter, and it's a physical attachment, if you will, hormonal wise, and I do not know all the details. That is worth looking into, right? So that first one is always going to be with her until her last day, more or less. There are some, it takes a woman to overcome that, I think. A healthy woman. If it happened to them somehow, what have you. That is maybe also a side topic. So, but the female, she then goes with the second one, and you kind of are going to have the softer version of the second. And what gradually happens, the more they lay with different guys, the less that they can physically bond. And can you see what is happening there? Because why do they do this in the first place? It is to receive the love from their father that they've never had. Now, whether they get cruel about it or not stays in the middle, or just cold, that stays in the middle. Now, on an emotional level, on a psychological level, and definitely on the physical level, they will be unable to really connect with the man that should have become their partner. And this, unfortunately, is what we see a lot of today. That is also, without or now with mentioning the pill, which messes with people's hormones apparently. Definitely look into that, or disagree with me. It's up to you. But I would say that is disagreeing with me. Well, on yourself be it if something ill befalls you. So, adding that too, having a pill that messes with hormones makes it difficult for women to even smell, if you will, to physically detect, maybe that's the better way to put it, to physically detect the man that befits them best. That is something that makes it near impossible for a lot of these females to ever bond with anyone, even other women perhaps. And let us just say, for the sake of argument, that these females at some point in time do discover the man that they should have been with. You know what many of them will do? They will self-sabotage. They will self-sabotage, and it will go all, the relationship will go fine in the first few weeks. There will be laughter, there will be cuddling, there will be doing all kinds of fun stuff together. There may even be talk of the future already. And then at some point, she is going to do something horrible. Could be cheating, could just be tearing the house down, could be anything. And the man that was meant to be hers is gonna walk inside the door and is going to say, "What happened?" And she's gonna say, "You do not deserve me and you need to leave out of my life." And that man can do nothing else but leave. There's really nothing else he can do. And the reason for that is it's not up to a man to fix the female he is with, and vice versa. This is only something that a person can do for oneself. And what is that thing? That is finding personal value. That need for that love, by the way, that they're looking for is always going to be there, and they're going to keep searching for it. Most of them in returning behavior. Some do it by being promiscuous, some do it by just being with violent manlets. And unfortunately, this tends to be what creates a femlet, as I would say. However, there is definitely one point I want to make sure is that whatever abuse a femlet inflicts in the face of her own abuse is still something I would say they are definitely accountable for. You could say that, well, if she was abused as a child, in whichever way, then it speaks for itself perhaps that she learned that and then exhibits that same behavior onto those she'll meet in the rest of her life. Sure, but it remains their own choice. These people still have their own agency, right? They still choose what they do. Nobody forces them, even if, from within themselves, they express themselves that way. But again, it's a choice. Much of it is. And yeah, of course, there are some extreme cases that fall outside of that, perhaps. But predominantly, I think, from what I have seen, they definitely have the choice. I suppose when cruelty plays its part, now there is a good reason that you let your empathy diminish a bit. There is something, however, that I've seen in the sphere. Oh man, I'm almost halfway already. I have to hurry up. There is something I've seen in the sphere. Let's say, even that it exists in and of itself. It should be courtship sphere, not dating sphere, but I suppose it speaks for the times itself, right? But the dating sphere. That there are a lot of males, or even men, by which I mean, or maybe even manlets, actually all three. And to maybe clarify, manlets are these violent types who beat their girlfriends. They're just pathetic and rotten to the core. Or they're these obese perverts that dish out or try to dish out emotional abuse and maybe even psychological abuse in some cases. Males are just basically boys that still have to come into their own. And men are basically males that have come into their own. They have embraced their manhood. They it may not even always be perfect, but they definitely have some core values, and the biggest of all is self-respect. Now, these three, they are confronted with these females, whether they're femlets or females, and it's one after the other, over and over and over and over. Because a lot of these abused females, they're actually not that bad, they want to reach out, they want to be loved, they want to give love even, but then when some man shows up, they get scared, because what if he's gonna turn up like that manlet father of theirs? And I really think that father does not apply to such types, but I don't think we have anything better for that. And then they'll ghost you, or if they've turned femlet, they will just try to get resources out of you, what a woman tends to get from a man in a relationship. But yeah, they do it preemptively, if you will. And then the response of manlets, males and men, is going to be something, well, with manlets and males definitely, they're getting accusatory. Like they'll say things like, oh, you have daddy issues and you're a mess and blah blah blah. And that is the correct, the issues, if you will, are correct. But the way how it is put is as if it's the girl's fault completely. That is where it is wrong in my eyes. You can say to them, it's like, why are you so cruel? Why must you be so cruel? And that can be the case. Why must you treat, why are some of these females treating, the three ranges of males like they, just pass on the abuse, and that tends to be the abuse that's been given to them, because a lot of these females then grow, well, in the wake of their treatment as children. They think that all men behave that way, and you see what happens in the society as a whole then, with that thought in mind. And you can even be a respectable, good man that is strong, that is protective, who does provide resources, but to the women who deserve it, and the females who, you're still not certain if they deserve it, but you give them the favor of the doubt, right? That's another issue. That tends to be manlets who provide for them in the hope to get some back. Where shall I continue from here? Yeah, that is just. I'm gonna go back to the point of the cruelty. So I think we understand that then. Shit, and not even all female femlets are necessarily cruel in what they're doing. They're just still, they still want that love, and part of a man's love is to provide, right? They just do it in such a fashion that the guy never gets anything back for it, or maybe some pictures, as you sometimes see. But again, to say that then it's that it's about the daddy issues, that is the source, but it is not what you should be calling out, because that is not their fault. The cruelty they exhibit in a response to how they've grown up, you can call them out because that is their choice to be cruel. And let's say if it isn't their choice, if they're just cruel because that's who they are, well then just keep your distance. That's far less of them than initially might look at it like it. I think it's just a matter of, for those among these females who want to be young women, is that you have to find your own value within yourself, and only you yourself can do that. I recommend actually checking out, I'm gonna make a recommendation, which is Laurel Escape. There's a Lorealee, and and then the second name is Scaife, Laurel Escape. Look up her videos. She has a site, a little site. She talks about Lord of the Rings, astrology, I believe, and a few other things. But there is like a video of hers that speaks about you have kingship for men, and then for women she also has 2 videos. Eowyn's sword, I believe. There is actually information there for females that is worth looking, and worth looking into, and I recommend that everyone else goes and have a look anyways. It's really good, and if you like Lord of the Rings, there is definitely something to garner out of there. Yeah, I wanted to quickly drop that in there because I want to see these people helped. I want to see them help themselves, I should say. And there are those out there, rare at the moment as they may seem, who can lend you at least a step towards helping yourself. I like to think myself as one of those if I can help it. Is there something else worth mentioning? I think I made it. Nice. Yeah, so for the females, help yourself. And that's for males, if you are in that sphere, I mean, that is something you need to look out for. Because you cannot deal with broken people like that, or people who are unfinished. Families being broken, females being unfinished yet. It's the women you want to go for, and women implies also that they have overcome whatever pain they've been through. They are able to be warm, they are able to be loving, they are able to to exhibit the role, express the role. That's us being a woman. That's what you aim for, and guys, there is less of them at the moment. But you know what part of the reason is why there is less of them? Is because there is too many guys in general who keep giving their attention to these broken females, or just the females. They see no need to improve. And I suppose then there are those few who are in such pain that they get abused and used by anti-whites, non-white anti-whites or white anti-whites, it stays the same. And as a consequence, perhaps they turn even anti-white themselves. Well, how shall one put it? If they consider themselves, or if they choose to abandon the tribe, if you will, our people's tribe, then they have chosen to fall outside of it. Make up your own mind about that, but I would recommend that you really think about that before you get anywhere near them. Oh yeah, and one more thing, and this is something that a lot of guys tend to fall for. Physical beauty does not reflect real beauty. That sounds a bit off perhaps, but beauty is a concept that, yes, of course, men like their hourglass shape in their women, fine, that is okay, and a lot of femlets can achieve that too, by the way. A lot of females can, but there is also a lot of women who can. And out of those 3, the woman is the one who is actually able to emotionally and psychologically connect with you too. Now, isn't it then obvious where you're gonna look? What you're gonna look for and what you need to put yourself out for. Make that demand and have the self-respect to stand your ground. I guess I'm gonna talk, sort of like trying to encourage people as opposed to couple up. And we can definitely see more of that, I believe, but healthy. It needs to be healthy, and that barely ever gets talked about. Oh, and as for these freaks out there, I call them that because you really have to be a freak to do this is these what do we call that? These pickup artists, they call themselves. I just call them vultures, really. Pecking at, wounded creatures, and then afterwards feasting on the carcass. Or I suppose leeches, that also works. Injecting their venom in their victim, just sucking the life from it. They are the ones who promise these broken females, or just these femlets or these females, the love that their father never gave them. They probably promise that, and then they have a tumble with them, or a few, and then they ditch them. Like absolutes deranged freaks. Deranged damned freaks. And this is also something, guys, if you want to be a man, you go, I should be wary of what I say. You call that out and you protect, right? You protect. You definitely do not encourage them when those same freaks go around and spread their daddy issues nonsense. Blaming the women, blaming the females, blaming even the femlets. While they themselves are manlets, just useless, among the worst of the worst. Because they also tend to be the driving force of why a lot of females are promiscuous, or femlets are promiscuous, and therefore can never bond again. It is politely forcing themselves upon. You can look at that the way you want, do with it what you want. I definitely am not gonna stand around and let that happen if I can help it, and I hope that there's gonna be a lot of men out there who are also going to do that. Even the ones who are broken, the ones you will never be, you'll never be able to have for a wife or what have you. Do it, not expecting to get anything, but still do it, because that is your role. I'm not saying that you should put yourself in a situation where you'll be completely royally screwed over. That is not what I'm saying. But if you can, still be the protector. Good women will see you do that. They will. They have eyes, and they have their senses straight. They will notice. It's a pretty good way to do it. And to quote Professor Tolkien, a deed is no less valiant because it went unseen or unheard, or something along that. It's close to the quote. At the very least, it's good practice. Noble practice. As in the spirit and the heart. And that's what man should be anyways, among other things. I think I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna go for my walk. I've also, maybe I should add that. So at this point in time, it's after New Year of 2022, and I've started an Odysee account. I am still working it out. I have already got one video for, at this point in time I've got one video up. I think it's the 18th of January 2022 now. So at this point in time I have one video up, and apparently nobody can see it. I'm trying to figure it out, but yeah, it's gonna be a moment, I think. If anyone can help me with that, it would be appreciated in the comments section. Why people can't see it. I think it might have something to do with that currency system, but I have difficulty even figuring that out. Man of the woods, right? All that tech, it's not for me. But yeah, I just wanted to share that real quickly. I'll also leave the link in the comments. think that's all I wanted to say on that for now, and I don't even have more time to expand that much. So you all have a good one. Think about it. And if this is helpful, if you think it's going to be helpful for some people, you know, talk to them about it or share the video if you must, to create some self-awareness and let potentially good people not just hang in the web of Shelob, if you will. Let them get themselves out, but be that person who gives them, the blade that will chop through the webs. Can we do that? Alright, you all have a good one and bye-bye.